All right, so we are going to be looking at a handful of things each lesson. And the rest of the time, you are then going to be able to just sort of play around and just get familiar with what those handful of concepts were for the day. So the first one we're going to start with is how do we set up a new project? In other words, how do we actually bring a model into Substance Painter so that we can paint on it? Now, your startup scene will more than likely look something very similar to this. If it's slightly different, don't worry about it. It might be slightly different for each person, but the fact remains is that for the most part, this is going to be what it looks like. And this big gray block here in the middle, this is our canvas. And this canvas needs to have a model in it in order for us to actually start painting. So how do we get that model in? Well, we can head on over here to where it says File. And at the very top, there's something called New. And that's what we want to be clicking. Okay, so we want to click on New over here. And that's going to open up this window. And I'm not going to explain everything because we don't need to know everything right now about what's happening here. But I just want us to focus on just this top section. And at the very top, we've got something called a template. So you might be thinking, what is this? What is a template? So if we click on this drop-down list, you get a lot of interesting names that appear. And what these templates are, they are ways in which we can quickly set Substance Painter up so that it can export your texture maps for a very particular kind of output. Okay, so let's hone in on an example of this. We can see in this list we've got something called Dota 2. Okay, and Dota 2 is probably going to be a name that's going to resonate with many of you. You're going to know it's obviously it's a computer game. So if we were creating assets for Dota 2, and if we were painting those assets, then what we could do is under a new project, we could select this Dota 2 template. And what Substance Painter is then going to do, it's then going to understand exactly what our output is for this particular project so that it can do a lot of preparation and all of that stuff on our texture maps for us so that we don't have to worry about that sort of thing. And the same thing gets said for all of these other templates. Okay, so we are not concerned right now with any particular kind of output. So you do not need to worry about this. Just leave it as select template ... Underneath this, we have something called File. Now, this is really where all the magic happens, right? This is where we select whatever our 3D object is. So I want to click on Select over here. And under Desktop, I have my model downloaded. Okay, and this is the same model that is available to you just underneath the lesson on Canvas. Okay, so once you've downloaded it, go ahead to its location, select the file, and then we're just going to click on Open. And you can see that file is now populated with the location of where that object is. So that's perfect. It simply means that Substance Painter is now ready to bring this model in. And then the last thing that I want to just bring to your attention and something that I want you to get familiar with is this idea of document resolution. It's like, what is that? What does it mean when it says document resolution? Well, if we click on this drop-down list, we can see that we've got more than a handful of options available to us. And our default document resolution is set to 2048. And we can see that it goes up to 4096. And kind of logically speaking, you kind of go, well, the higher the number, the better, right? And it is true. If we had to set this to 4096, we are going to be able to preview our textures within our session. We are going to be able to preview them a lot sharper. And that is really kind of exciting. And you kind of go, well, that's exactly what we want. We want these nice, clean, crisp textures. But the thing is that our graphics cards might not be able to actually accommodate that. And what happens is that if you set your document resolution too high, then the session, your painting session, can slow down significantly. So what document resolution does is that it allows you to downscale your preview of your textures that you're going to be seeing live, simply so that you can keep your painting session more interactive. It is not an indication of the resolution or detail that we will eventually be exporting the textures at. This is, once again, just simply a preview. So once we are done with that, we are ready to now import this, and we can just simply say, okay. We're going to give it a few moments, and then what we're going to see is, once again, just depending on however it is that our session is set up, we are going to see some kind of a result. So now for me, What I am looking at is the UV view inside a substance, right? But some of you might be seeing either a view that looks like this, where it's split, okay, like so, or perhaps you're just seeing that. Now, the way that I can control these views is by hitting F1, and F1 gives me the split view. F2 gives me the 3D space view, and F3 gives me the UV view. And all three of these views are useful. There's no such thing as you only use one or the other. You use all three of them. It just depends on what time you're using them and the part of your process that you're currently in. But F1, F2, and F3.